Okay, welcome back to a Final Fantasy playthrough. It's
been a little while since we've done one of these.
Yeah, it's been a little while. We've had a lot of different videos come up, and but we're back. We're still playing Final Fantasy. Just recording lots of different things.
Yeah. So this episode, we gained enough experience. We got some of the armors and weapons and stuff that we saw in the town when we last did the video.
And spells.
And spells, yeah. And so now we're going to go and get the crown for Astos.
Well, we gotta go talk to him first. We don't know about this Astos character.
I think someone mentioned something about him. I can't be 100% certain. Anyway, we're going to go try to do that dungeon. It's a long dungeon. Actually, the dungeons in the original Final Fantasy... Sorry, I'm mixing a drink here. The dungeons in the original Final Fantasy are just insanely long compared to, like, later Final Fantasies and whatnot.
Well, the encounters are very brutal in this game, so...
Yeah.
You know, every fight is supposed to mean something, so...
Yeah, especially on the NES, when you got to select each different person, because you'll hit a blank space, you know, if you don't. But it can be a bit annoying, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I like the original Final Fantasy, but I'm not like one of those people who says, oh, there was never a better Final Fantasy after the first one, because, quite frankly, it's not the best Final Fantasy.
No, it is has some great character designs, and I really wish the newer Final Fantasies would have these type of character designs where they're not overly effeminate. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's a judge-free zone, okay? I'm just saying that I can't identify with something that I can't identify with, right? It's just the way it goes. So, I don't know. I kind of enjoy it.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Also, as far as NES game goes, the graphics in this game are just fantastic. I'm sure
really
we've said
good.
that several times, but
They're really good, yeah, I'm not gonna lie there either. But if you compare it to even, well, okay, American Final Fantasy 2, which is Final Fantasy 4, like leaps and bounds over the...
Oh yeah, the story, the direction, the layout of the world, all the things you can do. I feel like maybe, I don't know if they had any. Well, obviously this game was supposed to be the final hurrah, like everyone knows that story. But I don't think they realized like so many of the things in the game would be really iconic. You know, like the airship. You know, you can't make it. An RPG with an airship now without being compared to Final Fantasy's airships.
Right.
So when they put the airship in this game, I don't know if they realized like it's got to be in every one of them.
Yeah.
Because it's epic, you know. The airships in the later games, in Final Fantasy IV, the airships are there's several of them, and then they go even further.
Bombing fleets of them.
Yeah, whole bombing fleets. There's armadas, and there's you even get a spaceship.
Yeah.
In that game, so.
And then you have Final Fantasy VII's airship, which is fantastic.
Final Fantasy VII's airship is great because you can put your chocobo on it.
Yeah.
And just fly around. But I feel like my favorite airship was Final Fantasy VI, the Blackjack, because it was like a floating casino.
True, that one is cool.
And then you go throughout, you see all your teammates everywhere, and some of them are in the casino, some of them are in the engine room.
Yeah.
And Final Fantasy VII did that as well, but there's only like 6 or 7 characters in Final Fantasy VII, and there's like, I think like 14 in Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah, something like that. I don't remember much about Final Fantasy IX's airships. Because there are a lot of them in there.
There are a lot because it's like the main form of transportation in Final Fantasy IX.
And you get like 3 or 4 different ones over the course of the game.
Like you start out with your pirate-like ship, and
which was neat. I like the Tantalus, I think it was called.
Yeah, and it crash lands, and then you get a little dinghy that you fly around in for a little while. It doesn't. You gotta get rid of that, and then you get the various Hilda Garons or whatever.
Yeah, actually now I'm thinking about it, I'm wrong. Tantalus was the name of
The group.
the group, but I don't remember what they called that original ship. Later on though, you get like that spaceship type thing near the end of the game.
Oh yeah, you do go. There's a lot of crazy stuff goes on in that game.
But they're all
Final Fantasy
kind
VIII.
of not really something that I remember too well. I don't remember if you can go inside any of them. I don't remember any of that.
I don't know. I don't know if you can go inside of them. Now that I think about it,
Yeah,
that was a huge deal in Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VI. Being able to go inside really kind of like just proved how big it was. How your people were there. No matter that was the best part of that's the best part of role playing games is like your other teammates or just people around town. They're there. They're doing things, and that's always like my favorite part of those games.
And you know what? There is, I think maybe only one other game that does a better job with airships than any Final Fantasy is Skies of Arcadia.
Skies of Arcadia is freaking fantastic when it comes to airships because of the ship-to-ship battles, the customization, and so many different characters you can get that aren't like playable characters, but they do affect the way you play the game.
It's almost like Suikoden.
It's a lot like Suikoden because even the very end of that game gives you closure depending on who you have on your team, which gives you a reason to play it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, Skies of Arcadia is one of my favorite games. It's also on one of my favorite consoles, which is the Dreamcast. So, actually, I was thinking about this the other day, like what my favorite console was.
Mm-hmm.
And it's honestly a toss-up between the PlayStation 1 and the Dreamcast.
And I think it's probably that way. Well, I imagine PlayStation 1 is probably most people's top favorite console. Like a lot of people, Super Nintendo's fantastic. Had some great games on it. Sega Genesis, same thing. Fantastic. Had great games. But the PlayStation 1 had, like, monumental games of every genre.
Yeah, it really did. I have a preference of games. So if someone shows me a copy of Crash Bandicoot, I don't really care.
Right.
But if someone shows me like Lunar Silver Star Story, I'm ecstatic. Even though it came out Sega CD first, I think.
Yes, it is.
And I think it was remade on the Sega Saturn, and then again on the PlayStation, and I think several times on like handheld systems as well. But the PlayStation version was the one I played first, and from what I've seen of the games, it looks like it's the best one. Yeah,
there's a remake for the Vita, I believe. I think it's supposed to be pretty good, or it might be PSP. I think it's PSP. It's supposed to be pretty good, but what I've heard is they've changed the dialogue at times so that it's less 90s centric because there's like some 90s anachronisms in it, and so they made it into what they consider a more timeless dialogue.
Well, nothing's timeless, but I don't necessarily mind them updating it because of we have a making of or something like a making of CD of the Lunar Silver Star Story for the PlayStation, and one of the guys who created it, maybe the creator of the game, or at least maybe one of the translators, I'm not sure. He says something along the lines of that each interpretation of the story is like the story being passed on to the next generation, and it's kind of changes a little bit, but the core story is there.
Right.
And in that sense, it will remain timeless.
Yeah.
So like I said, I don't mind them updating it in that sense because it's like, well, I will always have my version. So the next generation needs their version.
Right. that's actually a good point. So, yeah. But back to your saying, best console.
Best console, right? So PlayStation 1, amazing RPGs. For me, that's the major thing. It's got some of the greatest RPGs ever created, and I love that.
If not the best.
Yeah. Again, though, the Dreamcast has, built-in 4 controller ports. It's got amazing fighters, and fighters are my...
It probably has the best fighters.
Yeah, my fighters are my go-to games if I don't have a lot of time to think about it. And it's also got Skies of Arcadia, which is in my top 5 RPGs. I don't know what the top 5 is. I don't think I could possibly rank a number 1 RPG. I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, that's the thing about like top 5 and top 10s. It's like in no particular order here is what it is.
Yeah. So Skies of Arcadia, amazing game. I know it's on the GameCube as well, but I have one of those things where it's just like if it was originally on this and I played it first on that, then that's what I like. That's the one I play.
Yeah, mostly what we play it first on.
And it also has the Power Stone games, which are great. And a game that I didn't get to play until the 360 was Phantasy Star Online. And Phantasy Star is one of my favorite series.
Yeah, Phantasy Star Online is fantastic.
It is one of the greatest MMOs that you'll play. If you're gonna play it, we could do a whole video just on MMOs, massively multiplayer online games.
We should do one of our podcasts of that. Maybe play Final Fantasy 14.
Final Fantasy, it'd be perfect for Final Fantasy 14. I love that game too. Okay, so, but if, just as a side note, Ultima Online is my favorite MMO. But if I'm going to play one on the consoles, it's Phantasy Star Online. I played that game so much for how late in the game that I got into it. It was free. It was saying, we're basically going to be gone in a few months. Just play it for free. And I was like, I didn't know it existed on the 360. And it was fantastic. If I had been there on day one on the Dreamcast playing Phantasy Star Online, I would have been so furious that the Dreamcast wasn't super successful because of how much fun I would have had.
There are still actually private servers ran on the Dreamcast because it has the web browser that you can search for.
Right, the Dreamcast is just fantastic. You can search the internet on the Dreamcast. Now, you're limited now to an old Windows operating system, so you can't actually search modern websites. But there are
it uses an early version of Windows ME or something like that.
Right, and there are hosted sites that operate under those conditions, and they let you have the DLC for Skies of Arcadia. They have private run servers for Phantasy Star Online. So if you get the DSL add-on to the Dreamcast, you can actually play Phantasy Star Online,
which I believe saw people were manufacturing new versions of those.
Really?
Homebrewers were making those.
Well, it was $100 last I saw, so I don't know how much it is now.
Yeah, I think they only recently started developing it, so I hope it goes on sale soon.
The Dreamcast is also one of the first systems to have an actually good fight stick. If you look at a fight stick for a Nintendo 64, or I don't know if they made it for the PlayStation, but I know the Super Nintendo and the regular Nintendo, those fight sticks kind of sucked.
Yeah, I mean, they're fun to play around with. The 64 version is atrocious.
But the Dreamcast has actual zippy switches in it. It's like an actual fight stick, and it's amazing.
But it was not released in the U.S. You have to import a foreign one. They work perfectly on U.S. consoles, but you do have to import them.
Then it's also got the greatest memory card I've ever seen on any console ever.
That is true.
It's basically a little handheld Game Boy. No, I mean, it's not as advanced as a Game Boy, but it's essentially a little game system with your memory card that you can play games and unlock things for your save files for other games.
I would liken it to a Tamagotchi.
Yeah, it's a lot like a Tamagotchi. And, I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, it was groundbreaking in every way, shape, or form. And we got that thing. We played Shenmue. We played Crazy Taxi.
Yeah. Shenmue is the other, like, 800-pound gorilla in the room when you talk about Dreamcast. You have to talk about Shenmue.
Which I'm super excited for the
Third one?
the third game that's coming out. We backed it for $80 so we can get like the
Physical PlayStation 4 version.
yeah, physical PlayStation 4 version, and I think it's going to come with like a video of the previous games. I don't know. It was worth the $80. Whatever I saw was.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I believe it was something like a phone card that you could actually call people from the first games, and it kind of gave you flashbacks.
The only thing that would peel money out of my wallet faster than Shenmue 3 would be a Dreamcast 2.
Yeah, I think the entire internet would lose all their money after that. Because it is a console that has a surprisingly large following. And it's a shame what happened.
I think what it was, it found people found that system after it was too late.
Right.
Like, it didn't have a DVD player, right? But that no one really cares about that now. It was important then, but now it's like, yeah, okay, but I've got like 5 other things connected to my TV that can play DVDs. Or I probably don't even have any DVDs.
2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we have 5. And I think our TV has... No, this one doesn't have a built-in DVD. That was the old one. But yeah, 5. There are 5 currently connected.
5, and we probably have, 6 DVDs? I mean,
if that.
Seriously, we watch things... I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's not important anymore. And now we're looking back at, like, all the potential great Sega games that could have came out. It's like, yeah, of course we support the Dreamcast. But we supported it before it was cool.
Yeah.
So we are...
Back then, though...
Dreamcast hipsters.
Yeah. Back then, though, everyone wanted the PlayStation 2.
Well, there's nothing wrong with the PlayStation 2. It was a great console as well. It's and it does play DVDs. It does have that over the Dreamcast. But I don't really put the PlayStation 2 in my top 5 consoles because...
So many people do, and the reason why they do though is they always say, oh, because it also plays PlayStation 1 games. Well, that's not really a good reason, though, because you're just saying because you like the PlayStation 1 so much.
Yeah, I mean, our PlayStation 3 plays the PlayStation 1, and it's got HDMI output, so...
Yeah, yeah, so it's just really not a good argument. Now, back to the Dreamcast having 4 controllers, there was another console that had 4 controllers before that, and that was the Nintendo 64.
Nintendo 64 was also a great console, but...
It didn't have the RPG support, which is what we wanted.
Right, it didn't have RPG support, and it actually had very few games. I mean, if you really think about it, any game that you really like for the Nintendo 64, it's more than likely going to be a wrestling game or a Nintendo game.
Yep.
It's going to be like Smash Brothers, Mario Party, all the other Mario games, Legend of Zelda games.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be some 4-player wrestling game that you still have fun with today.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? I just not realize that we've been talking this entire time. We're just not even halfway out of this dungeon, really. We still got quite a bit.
Yeah, the thing is, the encounter rate in this dungeon is insane.
Yeah, I went the wrong way, I think, back there. So, yeah, we got a little ways to go still. We may even not finish this dungeon before we finish this video. But, anyway, we got on this tangent because we were talking about airships and how ubiquitous it is now, and almost a trope that, it's a Japanese RPG. It probably has airships. And it's true.
Yeah, I mean, it's true, and it's kind of interesting. I almost wonder maybe did Final Fantasy take that from some other manga or manga or however you say it.
And what is the origin of an airship? It's not even really a thing that originated in D&D, because I do know that the majority of what is in this game came about because of Japanese people's love of the D&D video games that got ported to Japan. And this is actually called a light RPG, is the actual technical term for this. And we call it Japanese RPG, but it's actually called a light RPG to begin with.
It's called a light RPG because of its interface. It's easy to interface with this game, as opposed to some of the older computer
D&D based games.
Dungeons and Dragons RPGs that are really in depth. You have to type what you do, or you really read into the role playing aspect of it, which is
But up
Can be
until,
good, too.
Up until the Eberron modules for D&D, I don't believe airships were prevalent in D&D.
I don't know if they were prevalent. There may have been mods, for the second edition, or certainly for the third edition. I know that I saw some items in there that were like floating boat or something like that would fly into the sky.
Yeah.
But yeah, the airship itself. I'd like to know the exact origin of that. That'd be cool.
Did they simply invent it? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to invent it for a video game because it's like you need the boat to get across the water, but you also need to get through the land, and you want to reward your players to be able to get them from town to town pretty fast. So pick them up, fly them over there, and drop them off.
Yeah,
and how you do it, you just reuse the boat skin and give it propellers so it's in the sky. I mean, it's pretty simple.
Yeah, and at that point, it's not an airplane, which seems a little too high-tech, for a fantasy setting.
Yeah.
But when you compare to Final Fantasy VII, there was an airplane, but it was immediately shot down, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't even that good to begin with, I don't think. I think they actually described it as barely working or something like that.
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII, and it becomes like a river vehicle for you.
Yeah, it goes through light water areas.
And the propeller just kind of goes through the water. Yeah.
But it's interesting. I think that it was that was definitely the first airplane in Final Fantasy. Up until then, it's just been airships. So I guess there was also the spaceship in Final Fantasy IV.
Yeah, we've never played Final Fantasy 3, so we don't know what goes on in that game. So
we never played 3. We played 2.
Played 2, and I don't know if there were any vehicles in that game. I can't remember if there were.
I think there was some, yeah. And we played a little bit of 5.
Yeah. Didn't care for that game.
Care for 5.
So regarding airships, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their resurgence, right? They're the fact that they keep coming back. They have longevity. They stay there. So many games and shows, and now that like steampunk is kind of a popular thing.
Yeah.
Not really popular, but you know what I mean. It exists. And the airships are all over the place in steampunk. And I think the major reason for this is that the airships are really cool.
Yeah,
yeah.
If you look at old pictures of like the big Zeppelins, they're so cool looking. Like in real life, they were cool. And then if you in fantasy, they're even cooler because they actually work well.
Yeah, they're not extraordinarily dangerous, though. They're different now, but when they first came out, they were dangerous. And so it's just interesting to think about the airship and how it makes you wonder who came up with it, I guess, but also
technically, I guess a real airship was invented in real life first with the Zeppelins, but this is in this game. This is a boat that has propellers and whatnot.
This is a boat that just takes off flying, and that obviously doesn't make sense in real life, but it's just cool to think about. It's just cool, maybe because boats are cool. It's synonymous with exploration,
right?
And so you want it just kind of appeals to that part of your brain,
right?
And definitely cool stuff.
This dungeon is just absurdly large, and the encounter rate is just insane. And in fact, I guess the dungeon itself isn't that big. It's pretty big, but the encounter rate is so bad, and the fights take so long. That's why I'm running from a lot of these things.
Well, that's kind of the whole point of Ryak. He's there to help us run away. That was why we
picked him. But now I wish we hadn't picked him.
Yeah, because he kind of sucks at it. He can run away sometimes, but not all the time. We got a little bit ways to the dungeon left. I think we should probably just cut this video in half, and then we'll come back with the next episode.
Yeah, we'll come back we'll finish the dungeon out and we'll go kill Astos most likely, and we'll have more to talk about. You know.
Yeah, we're gonna. Well, I don't think we even talked to him. I think we were gonna get the crown first and then talk to him. Happened to have it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, here
and
you
then,
go.
spoiler alert, we're gonna kill him.
Yeah.
So
it's a spoiler for a game that's older than us.
Older than time itself.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think that it was actually this was a pretty fun recording, just because it was fun to just talk about.
Talk about airships.
A peculiar oddity, and that is the airships. Did they come up with the concept? And that's something I'm going to look up myself.
Yeah, I'd like to know the answer to that. Maybe we'll know in the next video.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. You know, there's a few other things I want to talk about for sure.
I want to talk about how I hate Ryek. That's my number one topic for next week.
But yeah, we'll be back with another week or two with another video on this, because we're going to try to get back on track again. So, all right,
we'll see you next time.
Yep.